Hello students, welcome back to your computer science class. Last class I had stopped here because I wanted to explain you the difference between the tuple method and the eval method of taking input from a user. So over here I have demonstrated two methods. We can use these methods for creating a tuple. The first method over here can be used to create a tuple of single character or single digits through the keyboard. That means double integers like 21, 14 cannot come. Only single digit integer can be used. Similarly, in characters, we can make characters of individual letters, tuple, but not a tuple of words. Okay. So for example, let's just run this and show you. Now this is the first one, enter tuple elements over here. Okay. And I'm going to write, let's say, hello, how are you? See, my tuple, each and every character is separate. Now over here, if I'm going to write, and then if I'm going to add, let's run this again. I separated it with commas and it became tuple. Let's try this again. I've made a tuple with the words hello and how, which was not possible in the earlier one. So there are two methods that we can use with the input method. One is the eval method, where the input is evaluated. We've spoken about this earlier. So if we are inputting a tuple with the eval method, then we must enclose the tuple elements in parentheses. Over here, parentheses is not required. You can just enclose it in quotes if it's a string and separate it with a comma. Please note that sometimes eval does not work in Python shell and you can run it through script mode too. Sometimes eval does not work in the shell mode. Okay, basically eval decides the input depending upon the input given by the user. Thus, we must use tuple along with eval. Okay. Now, let's run this again and show you. Okay. Now, this was the first one. Over here, enter elements, and this is how I had put. And you can see how it worked. Even comma itself became a separate element. And if I do it over here, see, this is the difference between using tuple and eval as input methods for tuple from the user. Now, the next program for today is how do we access tuple values. Tuples are immutable sequences having a progression of elements. So, other than editing the items, we can, besides, except, actually, not besides, except editing the items, we can do everything that we can do with list with a tuple. Just like list, we can access the individual elements. Okay. Now we know that elements are indexed in tuple in the same way like they are indexed in a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the forward indexing, and -3, -2, -1, etc. is the backward indexing. So today in this over here, we will see that we are going to access individual elements of a tuple through the indexes, which we will mention in the square brackets, just like lists. Let's start. Let's run this. Like you can see, when I had used the number 5, it gave me an error which said index out of bound. That means there are not that many elements in the tuple as the index value specified by the user. As soon as I changed it to 4, I got an output. Over here, in this tuple A, E, I, O, U, we have A at 0, E at 1, I at 2, O at 3, and U at 4. Similarly, if you check -1 is U and -5 is A. Okay. Just like strings, if we pass negative indexing, it will add the length of the tuple and get the answer. While accessing a tuple element, if we pass a negative index, Python will add the length of the tuple to the index to get the element's forward index. Next, how do we traverse a tuple? Now, traversing a tuple is a very, very common function. Traversal of a tuple basically means accessing and processing each and every element individually. So, traversing a tuple also means the same, and the same is the tool for it. The for loop makes it easy to traverse a tuple or loop over the tuple many times. But we can also use the while loop if we want. So over here, there are two examples given. Both are using the for loop. I will explain you both of them right now. Okay. So this is my tuple T, and these are the elements inside it. Now, for A, over here, the alphabet A is a loop control variable. If you remember, we were using it for our integer functions also. It is our loop control variable. Okay. For A in T, that means A will take its value from the tuple. It will first take P, second iteration Y, third iteration T, fourth iteration, fifth iteration, and sixth iteration. Now, every time it takes this value inside the tuple, I am asking it to print it. I'm saying print it. So if I run this loop, it will print something like this. It will print every value on a separate line. If I want all of them to be in the same line, I just have to add what over here? End equals to and space. If you remember, okay, now. Looking at the second one, now over here I'm using the range function, and with the range function I am using the length of the loop. Over here I'm going to take the length of the loop. The length of the loop is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So it is going to be 6. That means for I in the range 6, the first value that I will take, this is my I. We know that the range is going to be 6. The first value that I will take will be 0, it will take 1, it will take 2 and so on. And now look at its application. T is my tuple, box bracket, I, close. This I will keep changing from here. It will change to 0, then 1, then 2. So I over here is my index variable. So over here, in this second option, I am using my loop control variable to index my tuple, and then it will print the same thing, P, Y, T, H, O, N on separate lines. Okay, let's run it and see. Like you can see, we've got Python 2 times because both the codes are actually doing the same thing. Another thing you must learn in computer science, it's not one size fit all. Remember, one piece of code brings one set of results, but it doesn't mean that you have to use the same code. You can always modify it for your own preferences. Okay. We can also do a while loop over here. How will I do a while loop? For my while loop, I will say while. I will keep A initiated to 0, which is my index value that I want to use. And then I'm going to say while A is less than or equal to, and in the bracket we will say length of T. Okay, while A is less than the length of T, not equal to. Otherwise it will give me out of bound value. So while my A is less than the length of T, I want to print tuple in box bracket I. And don't forget to, not I, A, because my value or my loop control variable over here is A. And don't forget to increment A by 1 all the time. Now let's run this and see. There we have Python one more time. This is with using the while loop. Okay. This is for loop and length function, while loop and length function. Is this clear? This is how you traverse a tuple. Moving further, tuple with using inputs. So we are going to do this tuple and we are going to take the input from the user, and this time we are going to be using the while loop. We are making a tuple and we're going to take the input from the user. Let's understand this now. Over here is my empty tuple that I have created. Here I'm taking tuple length from the user. I'm saying how many elements does the user want. So the user can say 3, 4, 5 or how many ever elements they want. I'm initiating I to 1 and then I'm I am writing while my I is less than n. N is the number of times, the number of elements my user wants. Till it is less, inside I'm going and I'm saying enter tuple elements. So my user will enter whatever tuple element the user wants. And then I am just going to add it to my tuple. How do I add it? This is very important. I can also say t plus equal to and in bracket a comma. If you remember this comma, I had explained to you, if I don't put the comma, then a will become an integer in itself. So when I put a comma, it becomes a tuple value. So whatever is a will go inside t, Next time again new a value will come, again that will keep going inside t. It will keep on adding. At the same time, I am increasing my I so that we can reach the number of times my user wants it. So my I will become 2, then 3, and it will stop. Okay, let's try this and see. Let's run it and see. Enter the tuple length. So I'm saying 4. Enter tuple element 12. Then I'm saying hello. Then I'm saying 3. It could give me an error because I've put string inside, but it did not. It took a multi-data type variable. Multi-data type tuple has been made with the numbers 12, 34, 78 and the string value hello. This was all using the while method. Okay. Now let's see how you would do it using the for method. Now, again over here we are asking for tuple length. Whenever the length comes, we are going to put it in the range variable over here, and we are saying for I in range n. Again, we are taking a, we are inputting the value and we are adding it to our tuple. Keep going. This loop will keep running till we reach that number. Let's run this loop and see. Is it working? Is it working? Yes, it is working. So we have done the difference between eval and tuple. We have done accessing the elements individually. Then we have done traversing a tuple using a for loop and a while loop, taking values from the user and making a tuple with a while loop, and taking values from a user and making a tuple using a for loop. Now we talked about nested loops. Nested loops is nested loops, nested tuples actually. Sorry, this should be tuples. Nested tuples. So I have tuple 1 which says 0, 1, 2, 3, and I have tuple 2 which says Python book. And then I'm making tuple 3 which is a combination of tuple 2 and tuple 1 and tuple 2. There are multiple ways of making this. Over here I have made it like this. I can also, I'll tell you the difference between the two methods. So this is one method and I'm going to print it and show it to you. See this round brackets? These round brackets here, parentheses, these indicate that this is one tuple and this is second tuple. Now, I'll show you one more. I'm showing tuple 4, okay? Equals to tuple 1 plus tuple 2. Okay, now see the difference between the two. Can you see the difference between the two? This entire thing is one tuple. Using concatenation, I made another tuple with both the values of these tuples. But this is a nested tuple. In the main tuple, there are two other tuples. Okay, so this is a nested tuple. Okay, now we will do sliceing, concatenation, and functions in the next class. Up till now, we finished on nested tuples. I hope this is clear to you. With this, children, I end today's class. Stay home, stay safe, take care, keep learning. Thank you.